Hello and welcome back to the channel on our continuing voyage to become better guitar players. My name's Mark, and in this video I want to do something a little different. I just want to talk to you about my personal experiences of guitar shops. You see, I've grown up going to guitar shops and I've absolutely loved guitar shops. And yet at the moment they seem to be dying out. Just a couple of years ago I saw something published where we passed the point where over 50% of all guitars that are sold now are sold online. So people are buying guitars without ever trying them. That's a real shame in my opinion, because the guitar is such an instrument that you have to connect with personally, how it feels, how you hold it, all those kind of things. And so to just buy things by looking at a picture on a website, it's kind of a shame. So I love guitar shops, so I want to kind of talk about my experiences, and I want to find out about your best and worst experiences as well. I will name guitar shops. I haven't been to every single guitar shop in the whole world, so I'm just going to give you my kind of experiences of good and bad experiences of some, and many which you would have heard of, some of which you might have gone to yourself. Anyway, these are just my personal experiences, and they may be typical of that shop, or they might be kind of quite unusual and I just caught the shop on a bad day. I want to talk about a shop that I visited very recently. I was on holiday with my family and I went to what's probably one of the most famous guitar shops in the world, Norman's in LA. Norman's Vintage and Rare, I think it's called. It might just be called Norman's Rare Guitars. I bought a t-shirt. That was an experience in itself because they're not really set up for selling stuff. It's a weird shop. I found it not very welcoming. I think the guys in there took one look at me, thought, this guy's not going to buy anything, he's just on holidays wasting time. And so they weren't particularly friendly, they weren't particularly welcoming. One of the things I didn't particularly like was that there's plenty of signs everywhere that says you're not allowed to touch the guitars, you're not allowed to play them, which is kind of annoying for a guitar shop. I guess they want to check that you know what you're doing before you handle some of these things, and I can absolutely understand that on the kind of the super vintage and super rare stuff, but not just generally on every guitar. So one of the experiences I had in there was the staff would talk to each other and name drop very loudly, which was clearly for my benefit and the benefit of the other punters who were walking around the shop. They were name dropping, so and so from In Excess is going to come to the shop this afternoon, and obviously they already knew this and they were just saying it very loudly so that the rest of us could hear that. They were name dropping Joe Bonamassa, for example. It's not unique to that shop. I've had that in plenty of other guitar shops as well. It's kind of annoying, I'll be honest. So if you work in a guitar shop, don't do it. It doesn't impress anybody. I found the shop itself to be quite scruffy. I wanted to buy a t-shirt and that was not made easy because they had a whole bunch of packing equipment just dumped in front of where they sell the t-shirts. So I had to move that out the way in order to find the t-shirt that I wanted and those kind of things. It was a bit annoying. It was clearly not set up for the likes of me who's just walking in. Probably the best guitar shop I've ever been to is Musical Exchanges, another guitar shop that is no longer with us. This was in Birmingham. I believe at the time it was probably the biggest shop in Europe. Certainly by floor space. This would be, I guess, in the 90s. I would travel down from Liverpool to Birmingham on the train at least a couple of times a year just to go to Exchanges for the day, and it was a fantastic place. And what made it great, apart from the fact that they had just a huge amount of stock, loads of guitars that you'd never see otherwise, it was a huge kind of warehouse, and every 10 yards, it seemed, down the wall was a little Marshall practice amp with a pair of headphones and a lead. You could just walk up, pick a guitar off the wall, sit down, plug it in, and play to your heart's content. And the staff were fantastic. They were very friendly, extremely knowledgeable. I bought a bunch of stuff from Exchanges. It was really, really cool. And then I think it got sold and eventually declined and then eventually shut down. But that was a great guitar shop, something that I would actually travel from Liverpool to Birmingham just to be able to go and hang out in Exchanges. Let's talk about Guitar Center, probably the biggest chain in the US at the moment. I've been to lots and lots of guitar centers across the US. The first time I went to a Guitar Centre was in Seattle about 20 odd years ago now. I was staying with a friend and they took me. And I'll be honest, it was one of the best experiences of going into a guitar shop. It reminded me of those early days of musical exchanges where you had a huge volume of stock, staff were very knowledgeable. It was a cool place to hang out. I think I probably bought some strings and different bits and bobs and things from there, but it was really cool. More recently, my experiences of Guitar Centre have been less good. I've been to one in California, Florida. You can spot where I go on holiday. I got kids who like Disney. I've been to one in Silver Spring a number of times because I had to go there with my job a couple of times. What I've seen, and I'll give you some of the really poor experiences of Guitar Centre, is the worst was I walked into the acoustic room and it was a cold day, so they were trying to keep the room warm, keep the guitars at an even temperature, which is a good thing to do. But whichever idiot had done this had set up a heater and pointed it, blowing at, and directly at one of the acoustic guitars, like about 2 foot away from the guitar. And it was just blowing hot air onto an acoustic guitar on a cold day. It was a stupid thing to do. And it's kind of symptomatic of the fact that whenever I go into Guitar Centre these days, I get the impression the staff don't really care for the guitars in there. They're never in tune. They're badly set up often. The staff aren't particularly knowledgeable. The staff, in my experience recently, don't seem to care that much. Although the shop, I think it was the shop in Silver Spring I went into a few years ago. And actually, I met a guy there who was really passionate about guitars, a guy who worked in the shop. And we sat down, we had a good chat. I think we even jammed some stuff. I think he ended up picking up a guitar as well. We just jammed, we were just hanging out in the shop. It was a quiet day. And that was a really good experience. And those are the kind of experiences that you want that are going to keep you going back. Now, obviously, living in the UK, I'm not going to keep going back to Guitar Centre. But when I was there last, I had a couple £100 in my pocket to spend. There's a couple of pedals I wanted, and the staff were just completely disengaged. So I didn't bother and I walked away and didn't spend my money. And that kind of leads me on to what's got to be the worst experience I ever had buying a guitar. And this was in Guitars for Us in Derby. I went in there, this is a few years back now. I had about £2,000 to spend. They had a very nice Tom Anderson second-hand in there. I think it was going for about £1,800 or £1,500, something like that. So I had the money to buy it. And I walked into the shop, never met the guy before. And I walk in there with me, my wife, and my daughter, who may have even still been in the pushchair. I mean, that might have been how long ago this was. But the guy took one look at us, and I don't know whether it was the fact that we had a young kid with us, or the fact that I've got a Scouse accent, or the way I was dressed, or I don't know, wherever it was. But the guy clearly took one look at me and thought, this guy's not serious. Didn't realise I had the money in my pocket to buy the guitar and I was serious about buying it. Was quite dismissive of me, wouldn't engage in conversation. I asked to try the guitar out. He was very, very reluctant. In the end, he let me pick it up and try it, but refused to let me plug it in and was just generally very dismissive. Consequently, I didn't buy the guitar. It was a really nice guitar. I would have loved to have plugged it in. If I'd have got better service, I'd have probably bought it, in all honesty. But if you're not even allowed to plug it in, you're not going to spend that kind of money. We left. I'll contrast that with where I then did spend that money, which was probably the best experience of going into a guitar shop ever, when I bought my PRS. And I went to Wold Guitars in Gloucester. And the guy who co-owned that, Jeff, who's no longer with us, he gave me the best experience of buying a guitar I've ever had. I went in with my wife, and so what did he do? Sit her down on a sofa, get her a cup of coffee. He was very nice to me, very engaged in conversation, pointed out certain guitars in the shop. He had no idea whether I was a serious and had the money to buy or not at this point, but he was engaging. He got guitars out for me to try. He paired me up with the right guitar, with the best amp to show that guitar off. He was incredibly knowledgeable. And I must have hung out there for an hour or two trying a whole bunch of different guitars before I bought my PRS, and spent, I think it was about £2 on the PRS. He set it up for me in the shop before I left to make sure it was all perfect. He said if I'm ever in the area again and I want to, I can just drop into the shop, and he'd set the guitar up for free. And it was just the best experience. And that's a fantastic guitar shop. If you ever get to go there, they have amazing stock, fantastic, real top-end guitars. And yeah, that was probably the best experience of buying a guitar I've ever had. One of my earliest experiences of going to a guitar shop, or what was my favourite guitar shop at the time, was a place in Liverpool. It's no longer with us, called Frets Old and New. And as a guitar shop itself, it wasn't very good. It didn't carry very much stock, but it was a great place to hang out. The guy who owned it, Dave, was really friendly, very, very knowledgeable. And he's probably the best repair guy I've ever come across. And it's a real shame that shop isn't with us anymore. But I want to start to talk about this because I would go in there and I'd just try and find any excuse to go. And I used to use the excuse of buying Guitarist magazine every month. So at least once a month I had the excuse of going in, buying something and hanging around as much as I could. And it was great to just be able to, talk about guitars, and Dave would let you just try stuff that he had in. He mainly dealt in secondhand, but it was a cool place to hang out, and I'm really sad that it's gone. So two more that I want to quickly mention before I close the video out. I was fortunate enough to go and work in Nashville for a couple of days last year. Unfortunately not doing music, doing something else, but I was in Nashville for a couple of days and I found myself with some spare time. So I went to Carter Vintage and to the Gibson Garage. Now the Gibson Garage, if you ever get a chance to go to this, please do. It's an amazing experience. It's a very bizarre experience, but if you like Gibson guitars, this place is unbelievable. The number of guitars they have in colours you've never seen before, the range, everything, and you're allowed to go and play anything. And like I always do in any guitar shop, the first thing I do before picking a guitar up is I will ask, is it okay if I play this? And they were really cool about that. I was playing $4 Les Pauls. I went in, they've got an acoustic room. Their acoustic room was beautiful. I played a bunch of guitars. I must admit there was one or two Gibson acoustics I was really tempted by. The guy in the acoustic room was really knowledgeable. They've got a bit at the back of the shop where, I call it a shop. It's not, they will sell guitars there. I suppose technically it is a shop, but it's almost more like an experience. It's more like just going and being completely immersed in the Gibson brand for an hour or two. I got there before it opened and there was already a queue of people waiting to get in there. I think I bought a t-shirt and different things while I was there. There's a bit at the back of the shop where they will take you through custom orders. If you want to custom order something, what options you've got. There was a guy there, very knowledgeable, very engaging, showing us the different tops, the woods that you can have, the finishes, the colours, neck profiles. They had pieces of all the different neck shapes, so you could see which you like the shape of, all of those kind of things. And it was a really, really fantastic experience to go and hang out there. Interesting thing with all of the guitars that all of the electric guitars I played, every single one of them was out of tune and poorly set up. And by poorly set up, I mean really badly set up. Like you got above the 12th fret and notes were just choking out. The intonations were completely out. The action was all over the place. I mean, really, really badly set up. The first Les Paul I played, I just assumed it was a mistake. And so after playing it for, I don't know, just a couple of minutes, I immediately turned around to one of the sales guys and said, look, this guitar just doesn't play at all. It's so badly set up. You need to get it set up and playing properly. Then I went and chose another guitar. Same thing happened. And then again on another one. And then I just realized they're just not set up for playing. I really wish guitar shops would just make sure that every guitar that's in the shop is in tune and plays nicely. So that if you're going to pick it up and try it, it at least yeah, plays nice and is in tune. Surely that's a basic for a guitar shop. But if you ever get a chance to go to the Gibson Garage, it's an amazing experience. And if you do want to buy a Gibson guitar, that's absolutely the place to go, because you'll have more choice than anything. They had all the Murphy Lab stuff there, for example. I mean, just a huge range of choice in terms of model and colour and anything else. Really cool place to go. But make sure that they just set up the guitar that you're going to buy before you leave, or in fact before you try it. They do have an in-house technician who sets up things there and then. So if you find a guitar, just get them to set it up before you try it. Okay, the other one in Nashville was Carter Vintage, and this was a shop that I absolutely love going to. They had all kinds of weird and wonderful guitars in there. Really great experience. The staff would kind of leave you alone, but then would engage with you if you wanted them to. The only downside is I kind of got the impression that the really good stuff wasn't out on show. It might have been somewhere else. They might have, I don't know, maybe they got a secret store of these things or something. But the stuff that you see on YouTube videos of Carter Vintage and stuff wasn't really out there for your average punter who's walking in. So I bought a t-shirt, I got to hang out, I tried some different guitars. They've got some really interesting things there. It's a cool shop to go if you happen to be in the area. I think it's like only a 5-minute walk from the Gibson Garage. So if you go and visit one, go and visit the other. So there we go, some good, bad, indifferent experiences. These are only my personal experiences. In some of the worst cases, I might have just caught the staff on a particularly bad day. I might have just walked into the Gibson Garage where before they'd had a chance to check the guitars were set up correctly, for example. You might go there on a different day and have a completely different experience. That's perfectly fine. This is just my experience. I love guitar shops. I love going guitar shopping. My favourite one locally now is GuitarGuitar in Birmingham. I've spent loads of time there. I bought my amp there. I bought a whole bunch of different pedals and stuff from them. Really cool shop. Again, staff very, very knowledgeable. Cool place to go. I think that's about it, really. Just my experiences of going to guitar shops. What makes a good guitar shop? What makes a bad guitar shop? Etc. What's your experiences? Have you been to these? Have you had a different experience of any of the shops that I've talked about? Please let me know in the comments. Different video this one. We'll go back to doing lessons again next time. But until then, I'll see you next time.